Well, welcome friends and fellow Kiwis to this very important presentation. Today, I'm here to discuss the insurmountable hurdles, including having to jump through flaming hoops, facing the freedom parties. These obstacles are incredibly difficult challenges to overcome. We can do it, we can win, but only if we work together. I want to have a look at these issues but also share with you a workable solution that is rapidly gathering steam. New Zealand is out of control. Kiwis feel like they've lost control of their destiny, and the government and all sitting MPs do not have the best interests of their people or our country in mind. Hardworking Kiwis feel they have been lied to about their real intentions. Let me ask you this question. How many sitting MPs, including current or former cabinet ministers, can you list who have told lies? I can think of several right now. Radical change is happening far too quickly and without the consent of people, and this has resulted in a lot of stress and division within the country. People are looking for a break from the upheaval, and they want a steady hand on the tiller. But who can do that for us? Who do we turn to? And can we trust them? New Zealand is under attack from within. It is as if our government has declared war on the people and setting out to destroy what was once called God's own, the best place in the world to raise a family. These threats are numerous, growing by the day and coming at us from every direction. I wake each morning and I wonder what the latest threat is that they're hurling our way. This is not a new problem. The image that you can see in the background, done by the most talented artist I've ever had anything to do with, Colin Livingston, a Kiwi now living in Wales, I think it's Wales. And I asked Colin in 1990 whether he could draw a cartoon depicting the chaotic way that our country seemed to be being led back at that time. And what he came up with is what we affectionately call the manic bus, being driven by our politicians and us and our families hanging on for dear life, inevitably heading for a crash. Now, that was 1990. That's a long time ago. Nothing's changed. The only thing that has changed is that it's 1,000 times worse. What we could see developing and building in 1990 has now reached a point where it is completely and utterly unacceptable. Now, think of the Therapeutic Products Bill, the dissolution of area health boards, the centralisation of local government, climate emergency, co-governance, race-based healthcare, three waters, significant natural areas, emission taxes on farmers, the closure and vandalisation of Marsden Point, and possibly the same to the Taranaki oil and gas fields, woke transgenderism and the sexualisation of our children, the attack on what it is to be a man and a woman, politicisation of mainstream media, corporate control of politics, the Christchurch call, hate speech, laws, and censorship. I even have trouble saying these things. The WEF's Fourth Industrial Revolution, the World Health Organization's Pandemic Preparedness Treaty, the centralization of overall power, the dumbing down of education. And the question is, did we vote for any of this? Were we properly consulted? Were we lied to? So it's quite a list, isn't it? And how many destructive acts have I overlooked? How many of these did you vote for? None of them might be your answer. Did you ever know these were Labour and Green policies? And why are the opposition parties and MPs either mute in support or merely recommending window dressing amendments as they bleat opposition? Were you lied to by your leaders? Are you still being lied to? If they're not working for you, then who are they working for? Is there a single sitting MP or party that publicly acknowledges these threats to our freedom and democracy and promise to end this madness? Of course, there's none. Are they lying right now about what they're really planning once they're back in power and after the next election, be it Labour or National that wins? They're introducing hate speech laws after the elections that would shut down all dissent, including online. It's important to remember that it's never acceptable for the government to censor information. We must make sure that government officials do not have the authority to decide for us what is true and what isn't. People should be free to make their own decisions and draw their own conclusions after weighing the facts. Censoring information limits our ability to make informed decisions about the issues that affect us most. Ultimately, censorship is the weapon of tyranny. The pursuit of knowledge and free speech are central to civil society. If we don't stop this by being the kingmaker after the next election, then the fledgling freedom parties, the freedom movement are finished, done for, pointless and wasted efforts. There will be nothing to show. New Zealand will no longer be a democracy, but instead a tyranny and ultimately a technocratic communist state where the top 1% owns everything and has total control. Have no illusions. This is what they are planning. Agenda 2030 and the Fourth Industrial Revolution are no longer conspiracy theories. They are rock-solid conspiracies. Get your head around this. Recognize the threat and act on it before it is too late. Recent years have seen the emergence of various new and exciting political parties built from the ground up. However, these parties will need several election cycles and millions of dollars before they become effective. History also says, unless their leader is or was an MP of some significance, they will fail. Unfortunately, this gives those who wish to harm this country ample opportunity to make their move, and their move will be after the next election. We must therefore be the kingmakers after the election, or else all our efforts will be for nothing, and our enemies will go in for the kill. I've lost count of the number of freedom parties, including those still emerging. They're all doomed, and in doing so, they will split the substantial and growing freedom vote, thus taking us all down with them. This is exactly what the incumbent parties, MSM, and all of the others in cahoots with them want, the splitting of the vote, along with the interminable and frustrating infighting that's going on. It's like a flock of brainless chooks all squabbling over who gets onto the highest perch for the night, and in the end, none of them do. Let's talk about the insurmountable hurdles that the freedom parties face when it comes to having an impact in the polls. As many of you may know, the freedom parties need to reach beyond their base of freedom fighters and appeal to the disaffected voters looking for a new home. However, voters usually stick to the same choices when in the voting booth. They vote the way they always have and the way their families have, and they go for familiar faces and names. If we were to do a random street survey right now asking the voting public to name 5 political parties and 5 party leaders, I'll bet you, other than New Zealand First and its leader, Winston Peters, only those currently in Parliament will be named. It is sobering to note that ACT spent more than 20 years and countless millions of dollars, and its leaders even danced with the stars to build its brand, yet still the party must hang on to the apron strings of National for survival. In addition, these emerging parties lack the infrastructure, they lack the finance, and have the growing pains to endure. and we just don't have the time on our side. We've only got a few months to get it together. It can't be done trying to do it from scratch. We've got to get real, be pragmatic. We must do whatever is necessary to ensure we are the kingmakers after the next election. And we've got to do it now, not tomorrow. We've got to do it right now. If we don't, we are well and truly stuffed. There will be no second chances. Our enemies will not allow it. The solution is simple. It is to become the political establishment ourselves. The best way to do this is to quickly identify an established party with good brand and leadership recognition, and one that best represents the freedom movement. Once we have identified that party, we need to join it en masse and become the party. It means getting involved at the regional level of the party, including fundraising, policy development, and candidate selection. We also need to demand that all the emerging parties stand down and do not split the vote. Are you listening? Alternative parties, listen. Finally, we need to vote en masse for this party on election day, and with no vote splitting. You vote for one and one alone. For me and the natural health industry, Winston Peters and Shane Jones of New Zealand First have always delivered on their promises. Twice on each occasion, once Winston had the power to do so, the obnoxious therapeutic products bill was gone by lunchtime. But will they do this and a lot more again? Of course he will. Sure, Winston made a huge mistake by backing Labour last time. He was the kingmaker. But like the rest of us, he had no idea what Comrade Jacinda and her handlers were really planning. Winston publicly acknowledges, like the rest of us, he was duped, and he and his party paid dearly for backing Labour. On this matter, I'm prepared to forgive. We were all lied to, sucked in, and they continue to do so. The best way to guarantee that they stick their promises is for us to back them and to join New Zealand First, for us to become the party and campaign for them, fundraise for them. We all become the party becomes us. Joining New Zealand First is the best way to make sure that the needs of every day hard-working Kiwis are met and heard at the next election. As we know, at least 60% of the voters, yes, probably more, are looking for change, and many will if there was a viable alternative. New Zealand First must present itself as an attractive option for them. The good news is they are doing this now, and increasingly so. We must articulate to the voting public the benefits of New Zealand First being the kingmaker. It is vital for voters to feel assured that their support of New Zealand First will guarantee that their voice is heard. That is why it is so important to get the messaging right. So let's discuss how we can do that. The latest Voters United poll results are in, and New Zealand First has surged into the lead, and it is obvious this lead will grow. It is time to call for the freedom parties to graciously concede defeat. They must agree to end their campaigns and give their full support to New Zealand First, and they've got to do that now, not later. To facilitate this and to ensure a smooth transition, an independent envoy should be appointed and sent to the leaders of each of these parties to negotiate their support of New Zealand First. If they do not agree to stand down, the response is simple. The voters will decide their vote, not themselves. Whether they like it or not, they will wither away. They have to. because if they don't, they will take us all down with them. The cause of freedom and democracy transcends all causes and overinflated egos. As in the game of chess, the players must be prepared to sacrifice all but their kings, for the only thing that counts is victory. Checkmate. As much as I love and admire and respect the people behind the emerging freedom parties, they must realize that there can only be one party in this race that we back. If they can't win an electorate seat or break 5% of the party vote, then they must stand down. If they don't stand down, they're leading all of us, including future generations, our children and our grandchildren, into the abyss of oblivion. We need a leader who is well versed with the cut and thrust of Parliament and can give back better than he or she receives. Winston Peters is the best and the most obvious candidate, since he never takes a back step when faced with adversity. And let's not forget, he is the elder statesman of New Zealand politics these days. Other parliamentarians, other parties cannot ignore him, and neither can MSM, mainstream media, even though they would dearly like to. So, what happens to the leaders of the parties that must stand down? Well, they need to be talking to Winston's team right now about how best to get as many MPs elected, and perhaps themselves becoming New Zealand First MPs and serving out their apprenticeship to become experienced representatives of the people. After all, Winston is going to need a longer than usual list of high quality MPs, isn't he? You choose the party, hopefully New Zealand First, then back up your choice by joining that party and get actively involved. You need to get involved now at the party level. It's more important, or it's just as important as your vote. This is serious stuff, folks. Be the winner. No other outcome is acceptable. Finally, to finish up, please sign up and participate in Voters United's polling. Go to votersunited.nz. It's easy to do and it's free, so there's no reason not to. Get involved. So, once you're signed up, make sure to regularly cast your vote in their polling for your preferred leader and your preferred political party. The political parties will be paying intense attention to your choices, even if they say they don't. It's important that we stay engaged and show our support for the parties that align with our vision of freedom and democracy. Every vote counts in the end, so let's make ours count too. We must not allow splitting of the vote. We need to bring us all together and vote with laser focus. Now, we can't stop there. We need to rally our friends, family, and everyone we know to join Voters United and participate in the polling as well, and to get behind the party that is polling the best. The more people we have on board, the stronger our collective voice becomes. So encourage everyone to join Voters United and to have a say. In finishing, thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. Now let's see positive action. Let's think and behave and be winners. So in finishing, I wish you and your family prosperity and excellent health. Now let's go out and grab back ownership of New Zealand, once affectionately known as God's Zone. Good evening.